Good day. Welcome to the Africans in America podcast. Today, I'm recording alone because my partner, Uweruche, has been busy with some personal projects, but she will be back soon. There's been a lot of events pertaining to Africa and concerning Africa in the changing geopolitical realities. And like we always say, Africa being caught up in geopolitical realities is sometimes positively good for Africa and sometimes negatively also. It impacts Africa. And this is particularly very important because Africa is very fragile country, fragile democracies, fragile and affected by so many things, including climate change. So the fragility of Africa is one where when political crisis happens and when Africa is caught up in the big battles of the elephants of the world of geopolitics, which are America, China, and Russia, it's a problem. In the last few days, Russia hosted, on May 9th particularly, Russia hosted the Victory Day Parade against the 80th anniversary of the Victory Day Parade against for the success against Nazi Germany. That parade attracted a lot of global leaders, particularly some from Africa, many in fact from Africa. Today I want to analyze why African leaders may have gone to stay close and show fellowship with President Putin at a time when there are serious tectonic shifts in geopolitics, and at a time when, if we look through history, such shifts sometimes impact on Africa negatively. We should not forget that during the time of the Cold War, Africa was both a beneficiary of the scholarships and support of countries like the USSR and China, but also suffered a lot of coups and instability due to the activities of the CIA and Americans and the Western and the former colonial masters who wanted the status quo to remain. But in reviewing, today I want to review Africa's participation in the May 1st, May 9th parade, Victory Day parade in Moscow. And I want to also highlight how some African leaders have been meeting with Putin after the event. One particularly is one African leader who has been enjoying a lot of accolades recently. Captain Ibrahim Traore. He met with Putin, and his meeting with Putin was to talk about a lot of changes in his country, particularly maybe the security and economic benefits that Russia can bring to his country after it had broken very sharply with its former colonial master, France. But it was not only Ibrahim Traore who met with Putin. Other African leaders too also met with Putin. We also had a case where Ibrahim Sisi of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt also met with Putin, and the Zimbabwean president here, Putin rolled out the red carpet for these African leaders, and thanked them for participating, thanked them for the rich history they've had with the Soviet Union formerly, and also now Russia. Another leader too, who also had the benefit of being with Putin, was Zimbabwe's Emerson Mnangagwa. He also led a high-powered delegation from Zimbabwe to meet with Putin and meet with the Russians and also ask for so much from their country. Yeah, but so this brings us to the topic. Why will these countries be seeking and meeting with Putin and be putting to risk their relationships with Western democracies? We should remember that Africa is a resource-rich continent where commodities define a lot of our economic backbone. It really strengthens a lot of countries. Commodities that like gold, diamond, copper, cobalt for Democratic Republic of Congo, and these resources have always been in the hands of Western-led miners, Western-led business interests. And in the changing realities, now we're having a situation where the Chinese have become big players in countries like Congo, big players in Zambia, big players, and even in Mali recently, the Chinese opened up one of the largest lithium mines in Mali. So the whole reality of Africa is changing, and Russia has suddenly pushed. We should understand that Russia already has 39 embassies in Africa, and they're planning on opening seven more, and they opened three, one in Equatorial Guinea and one also in Burkina Faso. The relationship between Ibrahim Traore and Putin is one that is quite admirable. Ibrahim Traore has forcefully, I must say, among the three military leaders of the Sahel who took over, it's been Ibrahim Traore who has moved the most in trying to strengthen his relationship with Russia. We should never forget that when Africa becomes a centerpiece of geopolitics, it's not really good for Africa. But in the light of the unbeneficial, I would say, many countries will believe that they never really benefited from the colonial masters. They were exploited, and then after independence, they had a period of neo-colonialism where even though they had independence, they were not economically free. So now we see a situation where these African countries went to Moscow, took part in the May 9th parade. They were well received. They had bilateral meetings with Putin. And so for this reason, now let me start to do a recap of the countries that were there. I know for one, Ethiopia was there. Ethiopia is caught up in a very serious situation where she is under sanction from America for the recent war that they had. Serious political crisis in Ethiopia, a war between the Tigray region and the federal government. It has calmed down, but I think there's another war also going on in the other parts of another part of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian government is seeking arms seriously. They need arms both to quell this internal crisis, but more for the threat of Egypt. Egypt is not too happy with the Grand Renaissance Dam that Ethiopia built and has threatened war with them. And much as Ethiopia has been sourcing its arms from Turkey and some other countries, it also has sourced arms from Russia. So Russia is very important to Ethiopia for the security needs and security things it provides to Ethiopia. But as for the Egyptians themselves, they are also there to look for arms. For a long time now, the Russians have been the biggest suppliers, right from the days of the Soviet Union, the biggest suppliers of arms to most of the countries of North Africa, and including Ethiopia. I mean, including Egypt. Sisi now is pushing a very big development agenda in Egypt. Is building a new capital, and he's going around shopping. He has been getting a lot of funding from the Middle East, particularly, and he has been putting himself forward as a bastion against Islamic fundamentalists in the Middle East. So for that reason, he has got the support of a lot of Middle Eastern presidents. But this is the crisis now in the Middle East, and there's this Israeli security situations brought about by the Israeli-Gaza conflict. And this conflict is bringing a lot of concerns to that whole region. So knowing that Russia is a stabilizing force, one, Russia has a huge Jewish community that that they can influence things in Israel, and they have been influencing things in Israel. Recently, they even got out of Israel, of Gaza, some of their own Russian hostages held by the Gaza militants. And it's no small feat too that the head of the Palestine Liberation was also in Moscow, and so Egypt needs this relationship for both security, but most importantly for wheat. Egypt is a Muslim country, bread, and if you lived in the Middle East, you know the role that unleavened bread plays in the Middle East there. And most of the wheat that Egypt gets at a discounted rate is from Russia. They also get, to a large extent, oil. Much as they have access to oil from the Middle East, they also have this relationship with Russia. So arms and wheat, particularly. Then let's go to Zimbabwe. This is one country that would have just been obliterated out of existence if it was not for the support of the Russians. Robert Mugabe started a defiant role against he stood differently against the British and against the Western world when he tried to address some historical injustice in land distribution in Zimbabwe, and he was hit brutally with some sanctions. And it was only the grace and the support of Putin and the Russians that they were able to survive. Now, the Russians are big. They own a lot of wealth. They help in distributing some of this wealth to some of these African countries, build good relationship with them, create pathways and access, sustain their economy, support them in more ways than one. So Zimbabwe has been very reliant on Russia, still is reliant on Russia. Zimbabwe is a mining country, and Russia has such expertise in mining. So it's not a surprise. It's one where they are leaning on the Russians for mainly economic benefits, and also for military support. So then the I've mentioned the Ethiopians and the fact that they were there, but there was also so many other things going on in Africa. During that May night, there were also parades called Parade of the Immortals in Africa. There was parade in Congo, Benin Republic, in South Africa, and all these other countries where Russia now has its embassies and Russia's influence is growing in Africa. So let me now dissect it. Russia's influence growing in Africa, is it a good thing for Africa? You will say maybe it is, maybe it's not. But some countries are very cautious and skeptical of trying to build greater relationships with Russia, particularly those countries that are leaning on Western, that have strong, fragile democracies and are trying to stay on the good side of the West. Countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, these countries have not shown a big face in trying to build a relationship. Because for them, political crisis, them being theaters of geopolitics is a very big thing for them. Congo particularly, we've seen how the crisis in Congo is still ongoing. And this crisis is leading to large refugees to the extent where in America here now, the largest asylum seekers from Africa is actually from the Congo. It used to be from Somalia. It used to also be from Ethiopia during the Tigray War. But now it's from Congo. Theirs is so bad that they even come as refugees across the border. So when we say political crisis affects the population, the asylumees, the seekers in America, it's if you go to New York, you will see a large stock of Congolese and Senegalese who came through the border, through the southern border. This is a new phenomenon. It wasn't part of Africans were not part of those people passing through the southern border. But now Africans pass through Ecuador, walk through this, or join whole caravan, human caravans, join them, pass through the jungle, battle it through with anacondas and jaguars and everything, and end up in the southern border there because of conflicts in Congo, in places like Congo and South Sudan. And these conflicts always have the Chinese, the Russians, the French, and the Americans somehow pulling strings in different ways and creating political instability for them. So for now, there's Congo, although we don't really know the full geopolitical implication of the Congolese war because it seems to be a regional one. It seems to be one where the Rwandans and some tribal parts of Goma and the southern Congolese regions, it seems to be a tribal thing where the Rwandans are supporting one particular tribe and one particular rebel group, the M23 or so. And this is leading to some real crisis where they're creating and generating a lot of refugees, displacing people from their homes. So the history of Africa being a theater for geopolitical struggle is a very bad one. Congo has had a long running period of conflict. South Sudan is there now. Even though the Sahel is enjoying this new presence of Russian influence, it's still a tenuous one because I believe particularly that they have their eyes distracted by the Ukrainian war and by their interest in China. America's interest in China is their fixation in China is maybe what is saving the Sahel for now. And for the French, the clear and present danger of a Russian incursion into Europe is what making them rally around and forgetting about they're pulling out all their resources to concentrate them in Europe to be able to hold up the Russians, should in case the Russians defeat the Ukrainians and want to move westward. So they are distracted for now. Like, but I had already said in one of my previous videos that distraction may be a good thing and it may also be a bad thing. It may be a bad thing because it may give opportunities to rogue elements in the Western intelligence agencies to plan some nefarious activity in the Sahel when nobody is watching. But yeah, it is. A lot of African countries went to support Putin during the May night parade, Victory Day parade, and Russia's influence in Africa has grown exponentially over the course of the past 5 years. While Russia was being shut out of many parts of the West, Russia sought new friends, made new friends, promised much. One of the biggest things they gave is that as the war escalated and went up, Russia did something that enhanced its soft power. It gave grain, wheat, to a lot of African countries that were under this spell that were not able to buy this wheat because of inflation. So they gave over, I think, 500,000 tons of wheat for free to many African countries. They shared it and distributed it, and wheat is bread, and bread is life for a lot of people. They have maintained that. They also have relationships as regards to oil. They use their oil in making friends. And I don't know how they go about whether they give discounted oil to some countries because oil is one of the biggest costs, even for a country like Nigeria that has oil. Importing petroleum products is one of our largest consumers of foreign exchange. Then you want to talk about countries that don't even have oil, you know? So Russia has built friends in Africa, and they're still building those friendships. They are strengthening that, and this is the worry. Will there be backlash to African governments? Will there be backlash to African countries? Will this now be the source of new geopolitical struggles that will generate more and more refugees? We don't know. But it's a good thing to see that while one part of the world is shutting down and not closing off opportunities, one other part of the world is opening up opportunities for Africa. I can read it this way. The Africans are leaning on Russia for security support, especially against former colonial masters whose intelligence agencies they know very well. They destabilize governments. And they're also leaning on China for a lot of economic and infrastructural development support. This is the reality of the new world now. And how Africa plays in that new world is, we are seeing it in the new alliances that are being formed. The African countries that have joined BRICS, starting originally with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now we have Ethiopia and Egypt as members and Nigeria as a partner. So these are the realities that we're seeing. We didn't see countries like Morocco that really has close relationship with the West and it doesn't want to rock the boat. We didn't see countries like Algeria that is still in flux. We didn't see countries like I said, Ghana, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. But quite a lot of countries in Africa are proud to show their growing relationship with Russia. No least is Captain Ibrahim Traore, who I would think that he has a very good relationship with Putin. They love each other. He seems to like him, he invites him to his events, and Traore is always very ready to throw down his hat and join in with Putin in anything. He's a young, vibrant leader in Africa. He's well loved. He has blown up the internet. Any image or any video of Ibrahim Traore these days is a bonus to anybody who does some video channel. So it's well loved and it's now in the heart of real politics, of geopolitics. We hope that um, the aspirations they go seeking will better their countries and not create theaters of war and conflict, as we have always seen in history. People will say, why are you being pessimistic about it? But geopolitics is a real hard thing that has led to displacement of people in many regions. If you are in South Sudan, if you are in Sudan now, if you are in Congo, if you're in Ethiopia, if you're in Chad, you will know. And if you're in northern Nigeria, you will know that it is not really good to be in the crosshairs of conflict. Thank you. Like I said, tomorrow or in a few days' time, I'll be back with my trusted partner, Woriche, Amisa. We'll be together again. The channel is growing and I feel it is imperative that we continue to give our viewers content. Thank you for being with me to this point. Share, like, subscribe. Thank you very much. You have a great day.